På dagens arbetsplatser i Storbritannien finns inte längre några hemligheter. Nej, storebror ser dig överallt. Modern teknologi gör att e-post, fax, telefon, ja till och med ett vanligt korridorsamtal går att avlyssna. Har man rent mjöl i påsen, ja då har man ingenting att frukta. Men ändå, var går gränsen mellan det privata och arbetet? Kvällens dokumentär, som är en repris från i måndags, tar upp just det problemet.
Övervakning är redan en del av vår vardag. Vi är vana vid att kameror bevakar oss utomhus och på offentliga platser. Men nu tränger de in på ett nytt och privat område. På alla brittiska kontor och fabriker kan man idag vara övervakad utan att ens veta om det. Tekniken gör apparaterna billigare, lättare att använda och mer lättillgängliga. Och nya kontrollsystem sprids på hela arbetsplatsen.
We can use technical methods to gather just about any information. That includes the telephone monitoring, the fax monitoring, covert CCTV systems, covert audio monitoring. Cloning of the computer, where we take an image of what's actually on the disk, again, is legal.
What time is this? 10:07. No, I'll call back tomorrow morning. Surveillance has become a way of managing people. It's a way of controlling employees. It's a way of exercising discipline. It's a way of exercising the prejudices of management and enforcing the contract.
If somebody's up to no good, then they deserve to be caught. We'll catch them out. You take the chance, you pay the price. If they're innocent, they've got nothing to hide. It just proves that they're doing the job they're paid to do, and it's as simple as that.
We've heard of stories of Big Brother and Brave New World. Is this how it is? Are we there now?
It's common for us to be doing surveillance installation at night because that's when we can do it without being disturbed, we can do it without the targets knowing, we can do it without anybody else noticing. The primary reason is that we want the installation to remain covert. Right, this is the safe area, so if we can just get the kit in here. Right. You saw the target areas we came through. Craig, you start looking at the cameras. In recent weeks, we've worked on 3 or 4 cases, some in the UK, some abroad. They include employee collusion to fix prices for contracts. Another case where someone is about to leave the company and go to a competitor, is working out his notice and claims that he isn't, or he hasn't been passing information to that competitor, when in fact we know from the telephone calls and the faxes that in fact he has been doing so.
The surveillance will probably come about because of instructions from the company. We're worried this guy's leaving. We think he's talking to people over the telephone about our business. What else is he doing? The only way that you can protect your business is to actually look at what the guy's doing and see what the suspicions are.
Did we clear what we're going to be doing? Let's do it then. We're very careful when we're actually carrying out an installation to make sure that we leave things exactly as they are. Before we touch a desk, we'll take camera shots of it so we can put it back exactly as it was. Can you do test on phone for me? For while we're working on it. It's that target there.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
If you generally ask people about telephones, they generally assume they can be done. Yeah, that's good. But a lot of people don't realise that you can monitor fax machines. Thankfully, a lot of fraudsters don't realise you can monitor fax machines. When we clone a computer, what we're actually doing is making an exact copy of the hard disk. Now, this is happening increasingly in our investigations because people use computers increasingly in their daily lives. What they don't necessarily realise is that when they delete something, it doesn't disappear from the computer. The relics or the remnants of it are still there.
So when you come out and hold it while you're screwing.
Just about every office has smoke detectors. They're commonplace.
A little to the left.
To be frank, you can't tell the difference between a real one and one containing a camera.
Perfecto. Except it's just showing a tiny touch of the hole at the side of it.
Verksamheten med hemlig övervakning har skapat en hel armé av privatdetektiver som kan följa den anställde på eller utanför jobbet, på arbetstid eller efter arbetet. Inte ens när man slutat sin anställning kan man vara säker på att slippa nyfikna ögon.
Hi mate.
All right.
I've just had that factory unit again on from Birmingham, you know, the one I was telling you about.
Right.
They're having the same sort of problem with the staff.
Yeah.
They want to know if you've got anybody tonight or over the weekend at all to know how Mark's fixed or...
Oh no, there's another job coming with over in Wakefield, and I've just sent him over there. A company from down south has approached us and said that one of their directors has left and he's contractually obligated not to work for any of their competitors, so basically all we need to do is nail the guy working for this other company. Hopefully Mark will get some photographs of him coming and going today.
Right, he actually works there. So what we'll do now is find where the entrance is and hopefully find a place where we can not get spotted ourselves by the employees. About 90% of the job is just waiting around, but the 10% easily makes up for the 90% of waiting, because when the target comes out or you spot something that you're supposed to be there for, watching out for, you know, your heart leaps into your mouth and you're off and your adrenaline rushes around your body, and it's well worth it.
It used to be, going back 20 years, that if they've got an idea there was a large-scale fraud going on within their factory unit, they could get the police involved to do a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week surveillance. The police haven't got the budget to do that nowadays, so the police will actually inform the employer to get more, more evidence, and then to go to the police with the evidence so that they can, perform an arrest. It usually comes down the lights of the shoulders of the private detective now to go out and, get the evidence.
This video is from a covert camera installed in a small accountancy firm where they had problems with petty cash disappearing on a regular basis.
Hey, what we've got is this guy. Now he comes in, he's looking very suspiciously about. What he hasn't seen is the camera in the corner or the triggering device. He goes straight into the area where the cash box is. It's a part of a husband and wife cleaning team. I don't believe, from what we see here, that the wife knows very much about it, because there's the money in the hand going into the pocket, and that's while he's checking to make sure that his wife's not coming down from the other end of the floor. What he does then is he clearly tidies up, making sure he's obliterating any fingerprint type forensic evidence.
Just straightening it up.
Yeah, putting it back in the position it was in before.
And I was particularly touched by the fact that he did a little bit of cleaning on the way out.
Very good evidence.
With that particular scenario, we weren't sure how suspicious the particular target was going to be, so we chose to use quite a small camera put into a location in the corner of the room. What we actually used was this one here, which allowed us to get the camera up in the corner in the ceiling. We triggered the whole system using a passive infrared sensor like this above the door. Effectively, what that meant was the camera was on, but the recorder wasn't running until somebody came in to trigger this device. Now, this is a passive infrared sensor, but this one's modified. It works as a sensor, but it also has built in a small camera looking out through this hole in the front. My favourite bit of kit, I like audio kit. My favourite bit of kit is probably this one here. This is an NT2, a digital recorder. It uses a very small tape, about the size of a postage stamp. This is a fairly standard piece of equipment, an off-the-shelf buy, but in this particular form it has specialist things like this microphone here. Technology is marching on all the time. Here's what used to be 2 or 3 years ago a small camera.
and here we have its modern-day equivalent. Most of these are for specialist use, so they are relatively difficult to get hold of. But if you know where to look for them or where to buy them, then you can find them.
I brittisk lag skyddas inte den anställdes personliga integritet. Arbetsgivaren får använda dolda kameror, avlyssna rum och telefoner utan att informera de anställda. Han kan läsa deras e-post och kontrollera hur de använder internet utan att tala om det. Han får anlita privatdetektiver som följer efter de anställda när de går hem från jobbet. Den nya tekniken ger arbetsgivaren nya möjligheter att kontrollera personalen och bekämpa brottslighet på arbetsplatsen.
The systems are becoming more complex and more effective, but what they're actually able to do now is incorporate other pieces of technology into them, link them with other systems. For example, we've got a video overlooking a sales point. Now you can see a printout of items. Now that printout is taken from the barcode reader. Now we can see quite clear evidence of collusion between a customer and a member of staff. If you look up to the left-hand side, you can see staff discount, and under that 3 coupons tendered. Now this wasn't a member of staff, this customer, and so wasn't entitled to staff discount, did not tender any coupons at all. And in fact, with some sleight of hand, a lot more items were passed across the point of sale than were actually registering on the reader. The cashier was dismissed, prosecuted, and sentenced to community service. So you can see how the new types of technology can be used to detect this specific type of fraud.
I think that there is every justification in monitoring in order to safeguard the interests of your business. There has been quite a number of abuses over my 20 years experience in business, really. I think one of the earliest memories I have is a chap who came to work for one of the businesses I was running, and he had been made bankrupt, and I thought, well, you know, that's all right, we'll take him on anyway, having kind of broad-minded vision towards it. And he seemed to be very, very good at his job, until we realized when we got the very first phone bill that, in fact, this phone bill was horrendous. In those days, surveillance was rather primitive, and it consisted of someone hiding in the office next door one night, and we realized that he was in fact running an international insurance company, which he, as a bankrupt, was not entitled to do in the first place, but certainly wasn't entitled to do as working for one of my companies, you know, in the evening. This person, who was actually effectively a third of your workforce, does this to you, is very upsetting. And as I said, I think that the most profound effect is that you don't know what to do, you don't know what to do for the best, you don't trust your own judgment anymore. You know, what do you go for when you employ someone next time? And so the whole thing gives you a feeling of insecurity in your own ability.
If we use, we've got to make it convincing, or the old man will smell a rat. It's the chief exec, the business of the prices.
Once we've got all the photographs and reports together, we'll send that off to the client, and then we'll leave it to the client to see what he decides to do. More than likely, if we get enough evidence, we'll sue him for breach of contract.
How do you feel about that?
I don't feel anything about it. I don't know the guy. I'm not bothered. I've got a job to do and I'll do it.
Got a cracking result on that Wakefield job. The guy had actually turned up in his son's car. So instead of using this motor of his own he was supposed to have, he's obviously trying to hide things. Right, yeah. And turned up in his son's motor, parked up outside, got photographs and video of him going in and out. And he worked there all day. So phoned the client. Client's as happy as a pig in I don't know what.
Right.
OK.
I'll catch you later.
All right, see you after. These are the photographs that our investigator took. That's a particularly good one of him outside the factory with his son's car. And there's one with the actual car registration on, showing him leaving the factory at the end of the day. The client says, in his words, he was going to sue the arse off him. The guy's not entitled to do what he's doing, so he's breaking the rules and we've nailed him for it. Simple as that. So yeah, it's great. We're dead chuffed.
Bedrägeri handlar inte bara om direktörer som bryter mot sina avtal, säljer företagshemligheter eller stjäl kontorsmaterial. Med den nya informationstekniken har vi fått ett nytt sätt att lura arbetsgivaren och nya definitioner på begreppet bedrägeri.
I think it is equally valid to call fraud the person who uses half her day or his day on the internet playing about when they should be working for you. I think it is fraud when somebody continuously makes private phone calls. I would call fraud an emotional determination to give less than is expected of you in a dishonest way.
I'd imagine that certainly in the larger corporations, the vast majority, something like 75%, 80%, would have tools in place for certainly for monitoring internet access and the sites visited, and more and more are getting tools for monitoring email as they realise the dangers to the company of indiscriminate email use. I must say, when I've been monitoring, I've seen some things that have made my hair curl a bit. I've been shocked by some of the content I've seen through several years of monitoring. Child pornography, for instance. Sometimes the actual amount, the length of time that somebody has been on the internet has surprised me, but not from a moral point of view, just from a professional point of view, wondering how people can spend 2.5 hours out of their day sitting browsing the internet, for instance.
As a company, we tend to have a relatively open view about information flow. We have no problem with our staff using the internet and emails for their own personal circumstances, in the same way as we don't have a problem with staff picking up the phone and talking to their mother for 5 minutes. The question becomes one of abuse.
I can do a search on the word sex. And that's an advert for hottest and sexiest Britney Spears pictures, but nobody's visited that. They've just been shown the advert, so no problem on that one. Delaware State Police State Bureau of Identification Sex Offender Central Registry. Somebody's been looking at an awful lot to do with Delaware. I wouldn't like to say what's behind that. Lesbian sex shows, see it now, click here. On a personal level, you can infer an awful lot about somebody just by the websites they visit. Obviously, if they go to some of the more extreme sites, you get to know a bit about their sexual preferences. But, as I say, although I might giggle inside, I can't conceive any circumstances that I'd take advantage of that knowledge.
Email is a way for people to be able to communicate with the outside world, and so sitting at your desk, it's very possible that, and has happened, that some of our staff have communicated with perhaps their new employer or a potential competitor, and we can see that happening.
I've got the list of all the emails of everybody who sent mail in or out of the network. So to find the person I'm monitoring, I just do a find, put in the person's name. So as soon as it's found the person I'm looking for, I can just click and it will then display the messages that they've actually sent or received. And if I click on this, in the right-hand window, I see the text displayed of that message. This looks like a social message, a private email to the family, social again, an email to one of our customers. Social is actually a joke being circulated. A reply to that joke. Arranging to go out with a friend. After the weekend that was just arranged, this is saying how nice the weekend was. A request not to send in any rude, lewd or pornographic messages because she knows her email's being monitored, and the rest is just social. I'd imagine the majority of people don't know they're being monitored, but if they're working for a company that takes IT and IT security seriously, I'd hope they'd actually take comfort in the fact that the tools are there and being used.
Right, can you just see if we can just sharpen the focus up a little bit? Tweak it ever so slightly to the left. Yeah, that's good.
Storbritannien är världsledande vad gäller användning av övervakning med kameror. Över 250 000 övervakningskameror säljs i landet varje år. Men kan arbetsgivaren alltid lita på de bilder de får?
The cameras on the floors in the early days were very obvious. It was just part of the furniture. It was January 1992 when the major problem started for me. I used to be a diamond sorter working with De Beers in London through the Central Selling Organisation, and I worked for them for 25 years.
He had a job that was, to my friends, very glamorous, and I was very proud of what he did because it was an unusual job as well.
What happened in '92, a girl that had been there a long time, we heard had been accused of stealing diamonds, and that this was all on videotape. So I, in my wisdom, said to most of my colleagues, well, there must be more to it than just tape. They wouldn't dare accuse somebody of stealing diamonds just on videotape alone. I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that I was asked to go over the road and was promptly arrested.
De Beers hävdade att kameran bevisade att Neil stal diamanter. Han fick se 2 videoband som spelats in 3 månader tidigare. Det var deras bevis.
The first one was apparently from a static camera, and it showed me cleaning, or basically fiddling with my shirt. Now, if I can explain what it is, I think this is a loop for looking at diamonds, and you hold the loop up to your eye. Invariably, you get finger marks on it, whatever. And what I do in the video is that and clean the loop on my shirt. It's a habit, but that was the basis of them deciding to target me further. The next film they showed me was me sat at the bench, and behind me is a photocopier, and one of the other chaps who was working the photocopier didn't know how to work it correctly, asked me if I could assist him. I got up and moved, and my hand clipped a stone as I stood up. And again, they said that that was possibly me taking a diamond.
Had the diamond actually gone?
Yeah.
How could you prove that it hadn't gone?
If they had bothered to come over that night, I was working on large stones at the time, all +2 carats. The goods that were on our trolley could have been weighed and checked within an hour, and there would have been nothing missing.
Neil åtalades för stöld och fick omedelbart sparken. 3 veckor senare la åklagaren ner åtalet.
They had no evidence to offer. CPS had said that because there was only the video evidence and no other evidence, that they couldn't possibly take this through to the court. There was nothing there to prove that Neil had done anything.
My mortgage was held by the company, and they gave us 3 months to pay off our mortgage. The world was just caving in. My memory of those weeks is vague. I really fell apart, I guess. People that you trusted, you gave your loyalty to, could do that to you. It's just beyond belief. It's staggering. I say, it hurts now.
Arbetsdomstolen slog fast att Neil hade blivit avskedad på felaktiga grunder. Men man sa också att det inte var orimligt att De Beers hade fattat beslut enbart på grundval av sin egen tolkning av videoinspelningen.
I think quite plainly everyone knows the camera does lie. It's only telling you what the operator behind that camera is wanting you to see. In our case, the hands going back
They're saying that's me picking up diamond. That's what the head of surveillance wanted the board of directors to see, and that's what he told them they were seeing. It's down to the people that are actually operating the videos machines, what they are looking for and what they're going to use it for. If it's done responsibly, they can only be a useful tool. Irresponsibly used, as in my case, it is a lethal tool.
Även om dolda kameror ibland kan ge tvetydiga bevis så kan de i andra fall vara det enda sättet att rentvå en anställd från misstankar.
The client was aware that £50 was regularly being stolen from a petty cash box. This man was a prime suspect because he was the man in charge of the petty cash box, and he was the person who always reported that the cash was missing. At this point, this man was very worried. No one had actually tackled him about the theft, but he knew that other people suspected that he was responsible. I decided to use this filing box with a pinhole camera through the tail of the four. And the camera, looking through the box, is connected to a recorder inside the box. After the suspect had left, this man arrived. He was seen with keys, and he's now opening the desk drawer. He's taken the money from the box and placed it in his inside pocket. The man in the film was a junior partner in a major company in the City of London. The following morning he was confronted with the video evidence. He admitted that he was a thief. The reason given was that he had a drugs habit and he was regularly spending money on drugs in the city. He was immediately dismissed and escorted from the building. The employers were obviously very surprised at the result, but delighted that the original suspect had been exonerated.
Om övervakningskameror kan rentvå en anställd, är det då skäl nog för att arbetsgivaren rutinmässigt ska använda sådana kameror? Eller kan det få andra följder för arbetskraften som vi först nu börjar få upp ögonen för?
Without doubt, it's now got to a position where employers in the United Kingdom can, almost without any limitation, place their workers under surveillance. Problem is, as Stanford University found out, if you put a rat in a cage and stare at it for long enough, it becomes neurotic. If you talk to anybody who has found that their conversations or their private images have been bugged, you get the same story of violation, the same sense that the world has intruded into a very private moment. I've never seen any serious assessment of the cost efficiency, the cost benefit of having surveillance in the workplace. I think it's a false economy. It certainly creates enormous problems in terms of management relationships with employees.
Good evening, guys. Star Reception. Tracy speaking. How may I help?
We installed 2 cameras within the post room, and they were installed in the roof void above the false tiles. The cameras were installed by an independent security organisation out of hours when the post room was closed.
On the day in question, myself and certain other colleagues in the post room came into work, and we was like sitting down, talking, like having a quick cup of tea and things like that in the morning. And because it's a brand new post room, basically, and you know, we noticed there were some holes in the ceiling. So with just curiosity, we looked at it, just looked up while sitting down and looked up. And we noticed like you could see like something shining. So stood up, moved the tile, and then we saw a camera. The size is minute, you know, fit in the middle of your palm of your hand. You only expect to see these things on James Bond and things like that. You don't expect to see them in the everyday environment, you know, like your working environment at all.
the best of my knowledge at the time, the board were not made aware that the cameras were put in, and it was the decision of the Director of Facilities, although I was the Deputy Director at that time, and I was aware that he was going to put those in.
How did you feel about it at that time?
I felt that the end justified the means.
This particular one in a private area. It's supposed to be our coffee area, our rest area, our changing area. Obviously not on the work area.
Ledningen uppger att sjuksköterskeeleverna hade rapporterat att 200 postförsändelser hade skadats eller försvunnit. Men postsorterarna säger att de tagit upp problemet med sin chef flera månader innan kamerorna installerades.
As soon as they were discovered, clearly the alarm was raised and the cameras were then withdrawn after that. We then sat down with the postroom staff and explained why we'd put them in. We then presented all of the evidence that we discovered to date, including the torn packets which were discovered in the waste bins in their area, including the list of all the items that had gone missing, and including the fact that we'd done a full investigation. We gave them all of that evidence and we discussed the issue fully with them at that stage. It's interesting, I think, to note that although we didn't catch anyone, that the thefts almost ceased immediately following the introduction of those covert cameras there. So although we never caught anyone, the crime stopped.
The problem hasn't gone away. We still get mail that comes in open, sellotaped. So it hasn't stopped. As the staff had told management and pointed to management at the time when you're sorting mail, that there was mail coming in, why would they, you know what I mean, be doing that if they're nicking mail or they're tampering with the mail? Why would they? You don't commit a crime and say, officer, there's a crime being committed and you're committing a crime at the time. It doesn't make sense.
I'm being recorded as I wander around this hospital every day of my life. People can see where I'm going, what I'm doing. Our swipe card systems record which doors I'm going through, when I've gone through those doors. I don't see the use of covert cameras a huge leap from the systems that we already have in place.
We're all there to do a job at the end of the day, you know, and to do the job, you need people to respect you and trust you, you know, to get the best performance out of any staff. You know, and if you choose not to, then you can't expect nothing different than a half-hearted service. You know, you're demoralising people, you know, low esteem, everything. You know, you want me to respect you, you want us to respect you, but you don't want to respect us. You know, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Just those couple of jobs. Right. I said we could probably do it, but we'd need a little bit more time than normal.
Well, I'm just waiting around for this guy with the tracking device to phone me and give us the go to go and do it all.
Stuart's actually been dealing with a company where they've got a problem with one of their salesmen putting in, they think, false timesheets. What he's done is he's fitted a tracker on the vehicle which should monitor where the vehicle has been during the course of a day, and they'll just compare that against the timesheets that he puts in and hopefully get a result.
This equipment is a satellite tracking system, so it will tell you, once you've downloaded it, where the car has been, at what times of day, exact to the second. Depending who the client is, depends entirely on where we get access to the vehicle. Sometimes it's they bring the vehicle to us at the offices, and sometimes we meet on a car park within a relative distance to their company. Obviously, it's got to be out of the way of where their employee is going to be, so that he doesn't see his vehicle being tampered with on a high street car park. The benefits are that once it's in, it's completely discreet and the employee won't know anything about it after it's actually in there. This information is totally accurate and will far outweigh anything an individual employee could possibly say.
Om de anställda aldrig vet om att de övervakas, vem ska då förklara varför det sker? Har arbetsgivaren starka och välgrundade misstankar om bedrägeri eller spionerar han bara på personalen? Vad kan då hindra att han installerar kameror enbart för att få anledning att avskeda en anställd som han ogillar? Det verkliga problemet med övervakning på arbetsplatsen är att klargöra arbetsgivarens motiv.
We did have an instance where we were contacted by an MD of a company who wanted us to do some surveillance within a factory, covert cameras, because he said there was actual product going missing from the factory. When we actually got the video surveillance back and put it back to him, we found out what his true motives were. It was one of his fellow directors actually seeing one of the young secretaries, and he was trying to get evidence to actually blackmail him with. When he actually came clean and said that's what he wanted the film for, the morality of, you know, the way we conduct business, we wouldn't let him have it, and obviously he didn't pay for the surveillance.
Även om det finns rimliga motiv för övervakning kan det inkräkta på den anställdes personliga integritet. Vad händer om man använder övervakning därför att man misstänker en sak men istället får bevis för något helt annat? Har arbetsgivaren rätt att ingripa mot något som man inte ens har haft misstankar om? Är verkligen allt man gör eller säger på jobbet offentligt?
We'd actually been spied on. My privacy had been invaded. They knew things about me, medical things, private conversations. It was going round and round in my head. What on earth had I said that they could have picked up on these closed-circuit cameras? Then I found out that they actually had done over 100 hours of tape and I'd only seen about 10 minutes of it. So God knows what were on there. I just don't know what on earth were on there.
They used the camera to discipline employees because they found by accident a conversation which was not related whatsoever with the crime they were searching for. Therefore, I think it was very unethical to use what they caught on that camera for another matter altogether.
I first realised I'd been filmed when I was actually under arrest in the police station, and the two police officers showed me this video and I was absolutely gobsmacked. I was trying to figure out in my mind, where did they have a camera and the sounds, you know, and how on earth did we not see them? But we found out later that it was, they'd actually deactivated a fire alarm, fire detector in the ceiling, and placed a camera in there, and I still don't know to this day how they managed the sound bit.
Ross Johnstone och Gerard Tourtois greps misstänkta för knarklangning på universitetsområdet i Leeds. Ledningen hade fått 3 anonyma brev där de båda utpekades. Breven överlämnades till polisen tillsammans med videobandet.
I said, this is absolute rubbish. I have not ever done drugs in my life, and I don't even know anything about drugs. About 3 or 4 minutes after that, the matter was dropped. Then my duty solicitor came through and he said, you're now going to be interviewed on conspiracy to GBH. I said, are you joking? He says, no. I says, God, why? Where have they dug this up from? He says, no, what it is, Roz, is you've been caught on closed-circuit TV.
På bandet talade Ross om en kommande fotbollsmatch där hon befarade att hennes gode vän Barry och hennes man skulle spela mot hennes chef Steve, som hon länge tyckte illa om. Anklagelsen om planer på grov misshandel grundades också på ett samtal som ägde rum omedelbart efter matchen då Gerard var närvarande.
She said something like, my manager happened to be there just a couple of row in front of us, and my husband knows and I have a grievance against him, and he would be delighted to smash his nose.
It was just like idle chat. It wasn't a threat, you know. To me, if somebody said that about me, you know, I'd be thinking, oh, well, let them get on with it type of thing. You know, I didn't think it was serious enough to be actually taken as a threat.
Leeds Metropolitan University hävdade att man hade rätt att använda dolda kameror och att åtgärderna var rimliga.
I told Ian was about look prejudice with football as well. Don't tell me, just say look.
Ross och Gerard avstängdes från arbetet i ett halvår. Ross straffades för att hon inte anmält ett privat samtal med en bekant som sagt att han tänkte klå upp hennes chef. Gerard åtalades aldrig.
I believe in some circumstances it is justified when it is to search for a specific crime. But what I do not believe is that a private person can do it. They don't know what they are doing. They are basically peeping toms.
Om arbetsgivaren avlyssnar privatsamtal eller privata telefonsamtal för att kontrollera en misstanke, vad hindrar då att övervakningen blir rutin? Kan arbetsgivarna ständigt övervaka personalen i hemlighet?
Yeah, we do that with a transmitter in, and then you can put a video in another room or something. A pinhole one. I only have one, but it's out on hire until Monday. It's back. I'm picking it up over the weekend. It's up in Glossop at the moment. Yeah. Yeah, no problem, yeah. All right, see you then, bye. Wealthy guy. He owns this enormous security company and checks up on his staff every now and again. He has us following him around or has us taping their telephone calls at work just to see what they're saying and what they're not. I mean, the guy probably turns over about 5 million, 6 million a year, something like that, so it's quite a big company. And he obviously doesn't want to lose any of his clients, so he just likes to keep one step ahead of them all the time, see what they're up to. Hello, Abbey Investigations.
I'm aware of a number of companies that are using surveillance to monitor staff, to see what they're doing. And won't talk about it, and who won't necessarily use that equipment in order to bring somebody to task or to trial or to the police, but are using it as a surveillance over their staff, as a form of intelligence, if you like. And by doing so, they will catch perhaps the conversations, be in a position to respond to a change of atmosphere, and that gets back to what you interpret as fraud. If you come and work for someone, that is a contract. It's a contract where you say, you will pay me to be here, and during those hours, I will be committed to doing my best for you. I have a lunch hour, I have a break to have a cigarette or a coffee. I'm entitled to that. But I do think that your world in your head is limited during your working day. Otherwise, what is the agreement? Is the agreement that you're just there in body? Do you fulfill your contract by simply sitting there? Does it mean you don't have to be committed to the business? It cannot. So if I employ you, I demand from you your skills, your integrity, and your emotional commitment.
What we'll do is we'll download the vehicle, come back to the office and print out exactly where the car's been. You can see the client stood over there. We'll need him to move a little bit. Back neatly away and nobody knows what we're up to. And away we go. Anything and everything that we turn up, whether we feel it's relevant to the enquiry, we will add that in on the report as we're preparing it. Now, it may be that it's a commercial investigation and there are goods going missing off the shop floor. However, if we end up following a member of staff that we suspect of doing that, and we see them having an affair with another person, we'll put that in the report. If we found out that somebody was going to a therapist once, twice, 3 times a week, whatever, but that wasn't what we were investigating, we would still supply the company with the information, and it would be up to them to interview their staff member and just ask him whether everything's okay, or whether he's under stress, or whether he needs help with his job, whether he needs retraining. they can then approach you from a different avenue and maybe get the job resolved in that way.
Oavsett om arbetsgivaren använder övervakningen i ett speciellt syfte eller som ren rutinåtgärd, hur får vi garantier för att man inte missbrukar den privata information som alltid kommer fram?
By looking at the list of all the emails, I can see if people are having relationships with other people inside the company. Sometimes I'll see 20 or 30 emails as part of a conversation in a day. With experience, I've learned to recognise these sort of things.
Hello.
As IT is much more relevant to companies, so much more of people's information and companies' information is the property of the IT department. It's inevitable. The power of the people maintaining the computers grows, but as their power grows, so do their responsibilities.
I believe strongly that the company has a right to protect the information that it has that gives it competitive advantage. At the same time, I think that staff rights to privacy and to the right sort of working environment is very important. So our policy in relation to monitoring is one that is that we have the tools, but staff are aware that we have the tools and they're aware that when we are monitoring. I would find it very difficult to accept a circumstance when monitoring should happen without the staff being aware.
I've just come back from downloading the client's vehicle, and I'm going to have a look at the information we've got from the actual program now. I've got the details of the subject's car on screen as to exactly where he's been and times and dates and everything. And obviously it shows all the journeys he's made and shows the times that he's visited different places at. I don't know what the information is going to be to the client until he's matched it up with the timesheets. So until then it's just a question of wait and see until I speak to the client afterwards and find out what's going on.
I mars år 2000 träder en ny dataskyddslag i kraft i Storbritannien. Men det är oklart om den kommer att begränsa den hemliga övervakningen på arbetsplatserna. För första gången i brittisk historia kommer i alla fall nya lagar att slå fast medborgarnas rätt att få sitt privatliv och sitt familjeliv respekterat. Men det gäller inte de privatanställda. Trots att regeringen har aviserat att man vill reglera rätten till avlyssning på privata telefonnät kan arbetsgivaren fortfarande, helt lagligt, bedriva hemlig avlyssning, dataövervakning och bevakning med dolda kameror på arbetsplatser, av vilken anledning som helst.
They found that he's actually set up another business in direct competition to themselves. So they're going to sack him on those grounds rather than the slight anomalies on the timesheet. He actually borrowed his car for me to download the tracking device and found the paperwork that the guy had left in there with regard to setting up another company. The guy must be a total pleb.
I see covert surveillance growing and growing by the day. People will always want to know what somebody else is up to. The systems are becoming so sophisticated for covert surveillance in general that yes, people can watch you wherever you are, and even if you were aware that there's a possibility of it being done, you won't know anything about it.
Rebecca och Kevin längtar efter att bilda familj. Holly vill bli dansare.
I'm gonna get that no matter what.
I vägen står ett fysiskt handikapp och människors fördomar.
Kids or people are looking at us, they always look at us and laugh, you know.
Små människor, stora drömmar. Dokumentär på måndag, 11:15. Daniel mördades på uppdrag av sin sambo. Hon dömdes till sluten rättspsykiatrisk vård, men efter bara 2 månader fick hon sin första permission.
Det som jag är ute efter det är rättvisan alltså. Va? För att jag anser inte att det är någon rättvisa i om de ska få bli fria för snabbt.
Vård eller fängelse? Debatt i svart eller vitt på tisdag kväll.
Here we go.
Dag-tv-succén fortsätter i TV4.
Buddy McCoy was pregnant with 7 babies.
I ett program med intressanta personliga öden.
How to just get up every day and do whatever my life consists of.
Ooh, that's hard.
Och öppenhjärtiga intervjuer.
And my dad was traveling a lot. He just wasn't there.
Something subconsciously reverts back to being the kid.
Under ledning av en av TV-världens största personligheter.
I didn't even know that.
Se Oprah Winfrey vardagar 3:55.
Gå upp nu, frukosten är klar.
Nya hästens Adjustable är världens skönaste säng. Steglöst ställbar med trådlös fjärrkontroll och ett avancerat inbyggt massagesystem.
Men gå upp någon gång då.
Hästens världens skönaste sängar.
Ema Telstar presenterar Stefan Sebö.
Direkt när man såg honom, så fort han kom upp på scenen, såg jag att det här kommer bli bra.
Jag blir jätteinspirerad av att lyssna på ett sånt här föredrag.
Han ger en kick alltså, och jag tror att man får tolka den kicken helt själv.
En alldeles speciell kväll med Stefan Sebö, nu på turné genom Sverige.
Så ska vi nu runda av söndagsnatten tillsammans med Mike Wallace och hans journalistkollegor. Ikväll träffar CBS 60 Minutes stora namn inom underhållningsbranschen. Komikern och sångerskan Carol Burnett är bara en i raden. Med det vill jag passa på att tacka så mycket för den här helgen, och så hoppas jag att ni får en bra avslutning på februari månad.
You ever get tired of being Carol Burnett?
Yes. Yes.
Do you really?
Yes, I'd like to be Kim Basinger, but somebody's got that job.
Why is an audience so drawn to you?
People sometimes come up to me on the street and they say, you remind me of my sister. You remind me of my aunt. And then one lady once said, I just love you. You're so common. You're just so common.
I accept my disability, it's a fact. I cannot hide it, and I don't want to hide it. But I don't want to be judged as a disabled person. I want to be judged as a singer.
If you had to choose between being an able-bodied person who didn't have the ability to sing as you do, and a disabled person with your marvelous talent, what would the choice?
I stay like I am.
Tonight, an operatic rarity. On stage, every inch a diva. Off stage, Anything but.
If a Martian came down and heard this, what would they think? Why make those odd sounds, you know? We are hollering in an extremely cultivated manner.
Do it to the end of the house.
Well, I might hurt you.
I'm Mike Wallace.
I'm Morley Safer.
I'm Ed Bradley. I'm Steve Croft.
I'm Leslie Stahl. Those stories and Andy Rooney tonight on 60 Minutes.
Last November, we broadcast a valentine of sorts to a dear old colleague of mine who is now on Broadway in a musical. Way back before there was an Everybody Loves Raymond, there was an Everybody Loves Carol, Carol Burnett, who along with Lucille Ball and Mary Tyler Moore was a household name in every American household that had a television set. And this is how most of us remember her. It's been 20 years since the Carol Burnett show went off the air, but her fans have not forgotten her. In fact, she has a whole slew of new ones, some of them here in Rapid City, South Dakota. It is one stop on a regular tour she takes around America, where audiences paid just to hear her answer questions, much as she did at the beginning of every Carol Burnett television show.
Yes.
Can you do the Tarzan yell?
Oh, yes. Now do this, because it's loud.
You ever get tired of being Carol Burnett?
Yes. Yes.
Do you really?
Yes, I'd like to be Kim Basinger, but somebody's got that job.
Why is an audience so drawn to you?
People sometimes come up to me on the street and they say, you remind me of my sister. You remind me of my aunt. And then one lady once said, I just love you. You're so common. You're just so common. Yes.
What are 3 things that you still would like to accomplish before, you know?
Before I cash it in? The 3 things I'd like to accomplish before I cash it in are Mel Gibson, Mel Gibson, Mel Gibson.
Now, at the age of 66, Burnett is hardly living in the past.
Bit by bit, putting it together.
She's busy as ever, here rehearsing for the Broadway opening of Stephen Sondheim's Putting It Together.
Part by part, bit by bit, start by start, stride by stride, kick by kick, glide by glide, stick by stick, side by side, by side, by side, by side, by side.
Look, this show is really a singer's tour de force.
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
So you can't hide behind comedy. I mean, this really puts your voice on the line.
Well, there's such good material, and what you try to do is just to not get in your own way worrying about how you're sounding so much, you know, and just do it, and, you know, as my grandmother would say, leave it lay where Jesus flung it. And back.
Those who knew Carol in her adolescent years would never recognize this apparently self-confident and talented star we know today.
I had never felt that accepted in school growing up. I was a nerd.
Were you really?
Yeah. And yet, down deep, I used to go to the movies with Nanny, my grandmother. We'd see 8 movies a week. And I'd come home and pretend to be Betty Grable and act out the parts. So maybe down deep I was a closet performer, but I never wanted to admit it because I wasn't a beauty.
Back then, she thought that maybe she'd like to write and draw a comic strip, but as chance would have it, she enrolled instead in the theater arts program at UCLA, and in her first part in the school production, she played a comic hillbilly, and the audience loved her.
And then walking on campus the next day, all of a sudden people are coming up and wanting to take me out or have lunch with me and all that. I felt I wasn't a nerd anymore.
I've always been shy. I confess that I'm shy.
This was her first big break in New York City, a starring role in Once Upon a Mattress, directed by the legendary George Abbott. Not a bad way to launch a career.
Thank you, Gary.
From here, it was on to the Gary Moore Show. Then a special that she shared with someone who became her lifetime friend, Julie Andrews.
Wherever we go, we belong. We belong. We belong together.
When we met, it was as if two young kids had just discovered that they'd come to live on the same block and bonded instantly. And I don't know anybody that doesn't adore her.
That's it.
Yeah.
Why?
Because she's courageous and vulnerable at the same time.
It's Bubbles and Burnett.
Courageous enough to make a telephone call to a complete stranger she'd seen on 60 Minutes.
I got this phone call at home, picked it up, said, Bubbles?
Together at the Met.
Opera diva Beverly Sills.
I will tell you this, I had a very nice long career. The happiest moments of my career was spent with Carol on the stage of the Metropolitan Opera. It was so incredible. I never have had so much fun.
Incredible is a word you hear over and over from just about everyone who has ever worked with Carol Burnett. And from those who know her best, her family.
She's a kind, loving, spiritual woman.
Carol's three children, actress Carrie Hamilton, pop singer Erin Hamilton, and show business producer Jody Hamilton.
The one thing that's great about Mom is she's really encouraging about whatever you want to do. She's always behind you. She thinks, you know, that the sun rises and sets on her three kids.
Would you tell me, what does she think of your hairdo?
Actually, this is my new look for fall. She likes this one better than the last one. She said, oh, honey, it's back to normal.
It's none of my business, but shouldn't there be a piece of paper in there?
We did find someone with a complaint about Burnett, her longtime comedy partner, Tim Condon.
She's probably one of the most annoying ladies you can run into because she's so nice. I mean, she doesn't gossip about anybody. She doesn't say anything bad about anybody. But what are you going to talk about, you know?
No gossip.
No gossip.
Nothing mean.
Nothing. God. Want to go to dinner with somebody like that, huh? I ask you. Not here. All right, well, then.
Well, she never says anything that mean about anybody, except it's a mistake to underestimate her. She is a very strong woman.
The National Enquirer found that out the hard way when back in the mid-'70s they printed a gossip column item implying that Burnett had been drunk and disorderly in a Washington restaurant.
They have no right to print a pack of lies like that and think they can get away with it.
And the Enquirer story was all the more painful because Burnett's mother and father had suffered from alcoholism.
How was I going to explain this to my kids, my family, the people I care about?
And you pursued it and pursued it.
7 years.
7 years?
She wanted a jury to say that they were wrong instead of settling out of court. I want people to know that these people lied.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find for the plaintiff, Carol Burnett.
And she won the case, gave the money to charity, and that was the end of that.
The irony is that Burnett's life had been an open book. In her memoir, she chronicled her poverty, and her parents struggled with alcohol, and in later years she dealt openly with one daughter's drug addiction, her own divorce, even her plastic surgery. It's a choice she made early on.
If anybody's going to talk about our history, I'm going to talk about it.
And somehow you free yourself, don't you?
Totally, because then you're not walking around on eggshells afraid somebody's going to know about this. Yeah, that's it. And, you know, my dad, if anything, got sweeter when he drank. He was just ineffectual and couldn't lick it. He just couldn't lick it.
When Carol was only 3 years old, her mother and father moved from San Antonio to Hollywood, leaving her to be raised by her grandmother.
She was a hypochondriacal Christian Scientist. She would have Mary Baker Eddy in one hand and a phenobarbital in the other, you know? And she was always feeling her pulse and saying, this is the worst day of my life. I don't know if I'm ever going to see another day and all of that. And so I was always terrified that she was going to die on me.
Knowing her background, knowing the struggle that she must have had as a young girl, I think it's a monumental aspect of her courage that she chose to come out of all of that with comedy.
I don't feel that I was sad at all as a child. If people read about it or, you know, hear about the background, they was, oh, poor thing, but I was loved. We were poor, but all the kids in the neighborhood were poor.
She used her humor to rise, and I don't think it's despite the way she was raised and grew up. I think it's because of the way that she was raised and grew up. She found the humor in the absurdity of her situation.
And nowhere was that more apparent than in her classic sketch called Mama's Family.
Well, we came here to hear what she has to say, Mama, not what you have to say.
Well, I got a right to speak up about my own grandson.
There was a great sadness about them. You know, truly overused word, dysfunctional, but that's what they were. There wasn't one joke in those sketches. It was all character.
I have given everything to those boys. I have been their mama, and I've been their papa.
And then you put the layer on of these silly people, then it became funny.
A heck of a lot easier on them than my daddy was on me. I didn't enjoy those wallopings, but by golly, he made a man out of me.
I think maybe he was a couple of wallopings short.
You're really on thin ice, old woman.
This, of course, was from the Carol Burnett Show, a show that almost didn't happen. CBS wanted Burnett in a sitcom, but she and her late husband, executive producer Joe Hamilton, insisted on a variety show.
The things that they created together, well, obviously, it made television history, and it can't be repeated. It was a magical mix.
Like a good team.
Joe was a father figure.
You were married to Joe for how long?
Almost 20 years.
And then it just sort of got a guy? Anyone we know?
No.
I'll go no further. Was she the creature of Joe Hamilton and Tim Conway?
Oh, no. She was very much a driving force of the show. I mean, she approved everything. She just capitalized on the fact that she was the star, but never let anybody know it.
I just noticed something. You know, from the waist down, you got the same shape as Africa?
That was then.
Are you okay, old friend?
And this is now. Burnett, like an old friend, still singing, still dancing, still making people laugh.
Time goes by, everything else keeps changing. You and I, we get continued next week.
You're 66. And you're going to keep on working until you drop? Is that it?
I think so.
New ones are quickly made.
I'd like to die on stage, for real. I've died on stage many a time, but like, for real, you know, just go out. The curtain drops, that's it.
You're a heavy person.
Yes, I am.
Here's to us, who's like us.
Damn few.
If you missed our profile of Thomas Kwastoff about 2 years ago, you probably never heard of him. But I'm willing to bet that after seeing him and hearing him, you won't forget him. For most singers, there is a moment of dread when they have to walk out on stage at the beginning of a performance. Thomas Kwastoff is a singer who needs more courage than most. Thomas Kwastoff was about to give his first major performance at the Barbican Theatre in London. And in spite of the applause which greeted him, he knows that when people see him for the first time, they are shocked by his appearance.
One of my first concerts were in Braunschweig. It's a little city in the north of Germany. And we go in the church, and the conductor come to my father. Oh, it's very nice that you sing here. And my father, sorry, it's not me, it's my son. And the conductor looks down, really like, woof. And then I start to sing, and he really loses his stick. It was really like, he was shocked.
He dropped the baton?
Absolutely. He was really like, what's that?
What that was this.
E poi qualche capitale abbiam poi qualcuno non sa, e poi qualche capitale abbiam poi qualcuno non sa.
Kostof's voice is exceptional by any standards. He can sing from high baritone to bass, and that big sound seems to come effortlessly from his small body.
I accept my disability, it's a fact. I cannot hide it, and I don't want to hide it, but I don't want to be judged as a disabled person. I want to be judged as a singer, and I think my level is high enough that I have the right to be judged like this.
Thomas Kwastoff was born near Hanover, Germany in 1959, one of the first victims of the drug thalidomide, which his mother had taken during pregnancy to combat morning sickness. Unknown to doctors at that time, thalidomide had terrible side effects, causing physical deformities in the unborn child. Believing that their son would never be able to lead a normal life, his parents sent him to an institution for the disabled.
My first sleeping room, I don't forget what was, I think, together with 10, 12 children. And they are not only physical handicapped, some are brain handicapped also, so they cry in the night, and it was a hard experience, but on the other side, now I say it was very good for me, because I try to enjoy every day, because I know how hard life really can be.
Nice to meet you. Thomas Kwastoff. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Kwastoff was eventually allowed to go to a regular school, and when his classmates played soccer in their free time, he took up singing. But when he tried to win a place at the local music school, Kwastoff was turned down. Students who wanted to study singing were also required to learn a musical instrument, and no matter how promising the voice, no exception could be made for a boy with no arms. So Kwastoff reluctantly decided to study law.
You know, it's very, very hard. If you know and if you feel inside yourself, I am an artist and I want to be an artist, and then to have this dry stuff.
The law?
Oh boy. It was really a hard time.
You don't think you would have made a good lawyer?
Maybe I would be the first singing lawyer. I don't know. No, I really hate it. It was really a hard time. I tried to manage it, but after 3 years I said, no, it's not possible.
So Kwastoff took private singing lessons, and to pay for them, he found a job.
Es ist 13 Uhr, NDR Radio Niedersachsen, aktuell mit Thomas Kwastoff.
Die Schlagzeilen. Kali Kumpel in Bischof.
He worked as an announcer for a local radio station, doing everything from hosting music programs to reading the news and weather reports.
Heute Nachmittag Auflockerungen, Temperaturen zwischen 18 und 22 Grad.
Those singing lessons paid off. Kwastoff is now regarded by music critics as one of the finest baritones of his generation. He gave up that day job some time ago and gives about 80 concerts a year in Germany and around the world.
You have an entourage that goes with you?
What?
An entourage.
What is that?
Entourage in German is...
Eine Gruppe, die mitkommt.
A group? I have my groupies. No, I'm sorry, you, maybe there's a mistake. I'm not Mick Jagger. It's, no. My mother is my groupie.
When Kwastoff's on the road, his mother, Brigitte, often accompanies him.
Was ever a point when she tried to help you too much?
Sure. Till now. Till now. I get crazy when my parents visit me at home. And my mother said, come on, I do this. And my father, what is this for a piece of paper? I must do this. And I must do this. And I said, please, sit down, relax, and let me be quiet here in my home. And yes, but I think it's difficult, you know. I stay long at home.
She understands, even though she doesn't speak English.
Yes.
She understands what you're saying.
Exactly what I say.
You said you were one of the first, and you were 59. And your mother had no idea about thalidomide then. What did she think when you were born?
Ja, ich war unendlich traurig und geschockt.
She was shocked and very, very, very
Ich dachte, das
sad.
Leben ist zu Ende.
She thought the life is over. She has had a very good doctor. My mother was really completely depressed. And the professor said, you cannot know now. Maybe you will have a lot of fun in the future with this disabled guy. And my mother sits very often here and that he was right.
She's having a lot of fun with this disabled guy.
Now, yes, yeah. Yeah, because she likes to travel, you know.
Kwastov knows that his success has meant much more to his mother than a chance to travel. She sits through all of his rehearsals and performances with something that goes beyond a mother's pride.
Nobody who has healthy children can imagine what that means for a mother to live 37 years to feel guilty. And I think the best present I could give to my mother is to show her, Mother, I'm able to work successfully. I'm able to live alone. I have the possibility to manage my life. I think this is a very important thing.
In his apartment in Hanover, Kwastov usually looks after himself. Sometimes he gets a little help from one of his music students. The boy who was turned down by a music school because he couldn't play a musical instrument is now a professor of music who gives master classes in his home.
Why do I do this?
Because if you feel comfortable,
Oh, yeah.
you make a little bit like relaxing your voice. It's a little bit like
I hope I show them how wonderful this profession is. Maybe the nicest profession in the world. Sorry for your profession, but I think singing is really the most natural kind of expression you can have. Everybody can imagine, everybody in the world can imagine singing. Everybody.
In Italia, 640, in Lavagna, 230.
You have such an expressive face on the stage. I mean, you can sense your joy when you're singing. You can sense that happiness when you sing.
I hope so. I never train it in front of a mirror, you can be sure. Never. It comes out of myself.
Kwastov often sings operatic arias like this one from Don Giovanni in his concerts. But for obvious reasons, he has never performed in an opera. The only role he was offered was that of the dwarf in Verdi's Rigoletto. He turned it down.
I think that my disability would be too much in the foreground. If you act, everybody look, oh, how he walks. And I think it's very important to have this kind of singing intelligence, to know exactly what is good for your voice, what is good for your career, and what not.
Bye-bye, and thank you very much.
Cheers.
Kwastov may not have the physique of an opera singer, but he admits that he sometimes has the temperament of one.
If something goes wrong, sometimes I can really get furious, very, and I hate myself in this moment. No, not in this moment because I don't recognize, but after that I hate myself. And I'm working on it. But, you know, I have hopefully a long life to correct my personality in the bad facts. I really want to be liked.
Kwastov says he also wants to be loved, and he has an eye for pretty women. What has so far prevented him from having a permanent relationship, he says, is not his disability, but the demands of his career.
And at the moment, I'm in the situation where I said it's better to be alone and happy than to have a relationship and have problems.
Would you like to have both?
Sure. Who not?
Thomas Kwastov says he considers himself to have been born blessed. Blessed to have made it to the top in a profession where he knows it helps to be good-looking. Blessed with a loving family, and above all, blessed with the gift of music.
It was a dream 10, 15 years ago. And now it's my normal life. Sometimes it's crazy to realize.
If you had to choose between being an able-bodied person who didn't have the ability to sing as you do, and a disabled person with your marvelous talent, what would the choice
I stay like I am. I would stay like I am.
Probably the best news this year for opera fans is the emergence of the diva next door, the American soprano Renee Fleming as opera's reigning queen. A crowning achievement for the singer from Rochester, New York, whose path to stardom has been anything but easy, as we learned when we first met her last April. She was already the voice of the moment and an operatic rarity, a truly nice person with a sense of humor about opera and herself. But Fleming was also much more, a working mother stretched to the limit by the burden of trying to have it all, and a performer whose fierce insecurity off stage was masked by her bold assurance on stage.
One critic said, and I'm going to read this, an arresting presence, voluptuous physique, technical mastery, spontaneous abandon. You have anything to add to that?
No.
But do you believe it?
No, of course not.
That's why they call her the diva next door, fresh and free of ego.
Hi.
She's a working mother with 2 small children.
This is the little one.
This is the little one.
Trying to maintain a balance between family and opera stardom.
Mama.
She was not an overnight sensation, but she was a trooper who sang her way through 2 pregnancies.
Right to the end. Yeah. But singing pregnant is easy. All of that work that we do to strengthen our abdominal muscles and to have the work on the diaphragm is done by the baby.
Her break came in 1995, just 3 weeks after her second daughter was born. Fleming took the stage as Desdemona at the Metropolitan Opera. And that night, a star was born. The legendary soprano of an earlier decade, Beverly Sills, was in the hall, a witness to the magic.
She had that moment where that nice hush came over the audience because there was, all you could do was focus in on what she was doing. You know, my mom used to say that some people come on stage and you have to light them with a spotlight. Some people bring the spotlight on with them.
The spotlight's been on Fleming ever since. a cover girl for international magazines. She's booked years in advance by the world's great opera houses.
Oh, you saw that? Yeah. Thank you.
And for adoring fans,
To Harry.
that particular passion they have for the prima donna.
I think I should be more of one. The classic diva who was the temperamental, self-indulgent, fat, bonbon eating.
Did you try?
I couldn't even, no, I couldn't even bring myself to try. It's just not in me. You have to think you're good when you get out there. Can't walk out apologetically.
Which is your instinct?
Yes. This is my problem.
Excuse me, I'd like to sing.
I'm sorry to burden you with this performance. I'm sure you have better things to do.
Thousands may applaud, critics may swoon, but still, she wonders.
I'll be singing on stage every once in a while and I'll think, if a Martian came down and heard this, what would they think? Why make those odd sounds, One can explain it as a controlled scream, in a way. We are hollering in an extremely cultivated manner.
Do it to the end of the house.
Well, I might hurt you. You're awfully close.
Go ahead.
But for instance, a sound that wouldn't project would have no ping in it. It would be kind of voiceless, kind of nowhere. Has ping.
The voice was born 40 years ago. The Flemings, both music teachers in upstate New York, were determined to put their daughter on the stage. She had the ping, but was desperately shy.
In the school chorus, I would be the voice that would stick out, but you could never put it to the face because I was such a stone face and so absolutely reserved.
But there was a vamp screaming to get out.
I wanted to be more scandalous in 7th grade. I really wanted to smoke and wear stockings and have fights. I mean, that's unfortunately been, my nickname was Miss Perfect.
Miss Perfect went on to study music at the State University in Potsdam, New York, where the vamp got her chance, a weekend singing job at Alger's Pub, a jazz bar near the campus. You miss it?
Very much, yeah. I really do.
Illinois Jacquet, the great saxophonist, wanted her to tour with him, but the Juilliard School of Music wanted her too.
It's totally different than which is why I stopped singing jazz. There aren't enough hours in the day to be really good at two things, I don't think.
We first met Fleming last summer at a time when critics agreed that she was reaching the pinnacle of her career. But when we spoke to her, she was still reeling from an operatic fiasco at La Scala in Milan only a month earlier.
I loved the part. I loved my colleagues. I was so excited about doing it. The final dress was a joy. And opening night, disaster.
Fleming and the conductor disagreed about her interpretation of the music. His fans in the audience ran amok in waves of insults and boos.
And I kept singing and I blocked it out.
It must be devastating, though.
It is devastating, and it may affect me for some time.
What was the conductor's reaction?
Well, he fainted. This is La Scala, I guess. This is, you couldn't write this. I mean...
It's an opera.
Yes.
Opera in Milan is a blood sport, a nightmare for any performer, but particularly for someone like Renee Fleming.
I had a lot of stage fright in the beginning. When I first started singing, when I was auditioning, it was not easy for me. I wasn't somebody who just sort of said, ta-da, I'm here, aren't you lucky?
But you still have that fear when you go on the stage?
Intensely. And sometimes it's worse than others. Right now, it's very bad.
The effect of all that does not stop at the stage door.
In my case, my marriage has suffered. I have had overwhelming feelings of, how can I do this? How can I continue to do this? I've been very strong. I'm not sure I can keep being very strong.
Her marriage was over. Working mother, now single working mother. All the acclaim may make it even lonelier.
I can't believe we're going to Toronto.
And the sheer exhaustion of singing all night and traveling all day. Beverly Sills knows the torment of that, of going on tour, leaving her daughter behind.
I looked at her and she said, holding her nanny's hand, "Bye-bye, Mama." And then she looked at the nanny and said, "No more, Mama," and walked into the house. It was the most devastating moment of my life. I never will forget that moment. I think Renee is going to have plenty of them.
The girls are at the doctor's being tested for strep throat.
Opera's a very selfish art form. You know, you're constantly worried about those two damn vocal cords, and then you come home and the kids have colds.
You don't have to eat it all, but just have a few bites.
But the art form cares little about the life form. Fleming had agreed to a punishing schedule. 3 new operas in...
3 months. Time for an operatic laugh, yes. So, it's quite a challenge.
First, there was Blanche Dubois.
Presence on stage, please, Miss Fleming.
Andre Previn had adapted A Streetcar Named Desire. He cast Fleming as the tormented Blanche.
Because she's the best female singer in America. It's a very simple answer. I really mean that. I think that there's no one quite like her. And Renee has a vulnerability, a visible vulnerability that not very many singers do.
And growing more vulnerable all the time. Almost overnight, she went from Streetcar in San Francisco to The Marriage of Figaro in New York.
And it was overwhelming. It was emotionally overwhelming. I suddenly felt enormous pressure. Every engagement was high profile.
When you're that good, the pressure to remain that good must be even harder than the pressure to get that good.
I made myself sing those arias in every rehearsal. Again and again and again and again, so that I knew that when I walked out there opening night, there would be no doubt about my personal comfort.
I think the pressures are going to be not vocal and not professional. I think they're going to be family. I think she's going to do some hard thinking. That she is not one of these women who lives on high notes.
Too many high notes, too many commitments. As she took her bows in Figaro, the prospect of that third opera, La Traviata, was just too much. She could not go on.
The joy that I had always had in singing, which was intense and in performance and in the entire climb up the ladder of this career, had disappeared completely.
There was a really serious internal struggle going on within her.
That's right.
She withdrew to the mundane pleasures of suburbia to decide whether she wanted to quit her profession for good. She took stock, sought counseling, and perhaps discovered that having it all, for man, woman, or diva, is one of those modern myths.
Who does better at her job, the mom or the diva?
I would say the mom. Ultimately, if all of this falls apart, I'll still be the mom. I'll always be the mom.
By last January, Fleming says the joy of singing had come back, and she made a triumphant return to New York's Carnegie Hall and a dozen other cities. The voice was strong and clear and confident. If the nerves or fright were still there, it was impossible to tell. It's now near impossible to get a ticket to a Renee Fleming performance anywhere in the world. She's simply sold out. Next month, she's back at Carnegie Hall and the Met in New York and Covent Garden in London. As for future performances, she's booked to the year 2004.
Here goes Andy again, biting the hand that feeds him.
The companies that make cars spend $11 billion a year on advertising in the United States. That's $450 for every car they sell. We'd buy cars if they never advertised at all, but they want us to buy their car, of course. You never see a car caught in traffic in a television commercial. Never any other cars in sight. They don't let you look at the car for long, lots of quick pics. You'd think most of us lived in the desert, because that's where cars in commercials tear along in a cloud of dust. Where'd all the traffic go, anyway? Do you drive on roads where your car's the only one? What about a traffic light? And what happened to all the tractor-trailers crowding you off the road? Not even a house on this road. Hope this guy doesn't need gas, because I don't see a pump anywhere. No car ever passes a car they're trying to sell you in a commercial. He's doing 90, but no cops hiding in the bushes here. No tickets for speeding ever. They seem to think we have to drive in water a lot. I have a Jeep, and I can't ever recall driving it down a riverbed. I know the glove compartment's too small, but I didn't realize I could drive it in water. If I drove it over a rock like this, I'd probably bend an axle or get a flat tire. The water they drive cars in never gets too deep. Oh, sometimes it gets too deep, but they have special commercials for deep water cars. This commercial for an Infiniti is an elaborate joke. The guy loved his car so much he was buried in it. His wife loved the car better than she loved him. Would that commercial get you to pay $40,000 for an Infiniti? We took some pictures of cars in real life. This is what a car looks like where I drive one. Let's see one of these go 90 miles an hour in a cloud of dust. No empty roads, no streams here. This car is all alone in front of a church on Park Avenue. This is what it really looks like out in front of that church. I think that all of you people who sell cars with these commercials know that this was all done in good fun. We here at 60 Minutes love your commercials. They help pay our salaries. We enjoy taking your money. I especially like your commercials because, well, sometimes they're more fun than I am.
I'm Ed Bradley. We'll be back next week with another edition of 60 Minutes.
I det här programmet så vill vi att barnen ska uppträda som de idoler som de älskar.
Möt Lene i Aqua och Drömhus. Enrique Iglesias och Electric Banana Band. Och Celine Dion. I Småstjärnorna, fredag klockan 8.
Här är dagens kvalfråga till Vem vill bli miljonär? I vilket land ligger nabatéernas gamla klippstad Petra? A. Syrien. B. Jordanien. C. Egypten. D. Armenien. Ring nu in på det telefonnummer som du tror är rätt.